alacrity, eagerness. I don't know why you put that's a fancy word. And take place in domains that are familiar enough to permit effective learning. So basically, successful organizations, failure creates a recognition of risk, and so you have to have intelligent failures to learn stuff. So in other words, that's sort of vague. This whole thing from sick is sort of vague. Intelligent failures is sort of vague, but the bigger idea that is actually most important is opportunity. One. Organizations should treat failures as an opportunity to recognize a potential crisis to prevent a similar crisis in the future, or a bigger crisis if it's a minor sort of crisis, even though crisis itself is never minor definitionally. And that's huge. It's a change in mindset, I think. We oftentimes think failure, bad, 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 bad. But the bigger idea here is failure can be good, 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 good. Turn that frown upside down. Dangerous opportunity. That was the Mandarin characters. I don't know how to do them. But in any case, a lot of people go, oh, I can't believe we did this. Learn from it. Learn from it. Learn from it. Organizations should treat failures as an opportunity to recognize a potential crisis or to prevent a similar crisis in the future. Actually, that's not even true. I mean, that's not only true for organizations. It's true for you. Learn from your failures. And I'm looking at you, Jason Munsell, because I am actually looking at me, though I've never failed before. Vicarious learning is the next idea. And that here is basically you learn from similar organizations who screw up. So it has this example of ways that folks fought bioterrorism because of some hoax in New Zealand. I'll let you read that. That's cows. I say cows here because cows are foot and mouth disease. Foot and mouth disease. This is actually foot and mouth disease. It's a different type of disease. They talk about college students boycotting Nike, and then Nike initially failed to react, and so Adidas and Reebok looked at what Nike did and did something different to avoid parallel boycotts, actually paying people. Ooh, imagine that. So basically the bigger idea here, and this is opportunity number 2, organizations can avoid crises by learning from other organizations' failures and crises. So pay attention to what other organizations do. Learn from the failures of other folks. Pretty common sense stuff, but people don't do that. Think about Columbia College. We have actually, I think, done so. There's lots of examples of colleges out there that are similar to us, particularly small liberal arts women's colleges that have gone under. They have, or gone co-ed or something like that. Think in terms of the Sweetbriar, though the Sweetbriar alums got money and apparently everything, I don't know what's going on, but they were totally focused just on this thing. That is, oh, I'm holding a Coke. It's a very small Coke. Just on sort of the typical traditional liberal arts, which is great, it was wonderful. But what we have done, and what a lot of colleges have had to do, is to sort of diversify, to have multiple revenue streams. So we've got evening college, we've got online stuff, we've got graduate programs and everything like that. So we have vicariously learned from other organizations, other colleges that didn't do so well. So that's sort of an example of vicarious learning, and it's important. You just got to pay attention to what other people, if other people have failed, what did they do wrong, and let's learn from it. Okay, organizational memory. This is tough. I say organizational, I forgot, memory, yeah, duh. Totally. I'm thinking totally now, I need a pizza. Basically this idea is we need to remember in our organization the mistakes that we have made. But sometimes that is hard. But this idea of organizational memory and retaining information, retaining knowledge in your organization is unbelievably important. The definition of organizational memory is on top of page 191. From the perspective of crisis communication, organizational memory consists of accumulation of knowledge based on the observation of successes and failures, both within the company and through vicarious observation. And so they have this terrible example of Union Carbide. They were closing this plant. They didn't train people as they should. They had staff reductions and oversight failures, and look what happened. There was a gas leak or something like that, and within hours, 2,000 residents were killed. So it's horrible. So basically, organizational memory consists of the following 3 stages, they say. Acquiring knowledge, so the organization itself has to acquire the knowledge. Okay, we failed. Let's learn from it. Let's acquire that knowledge. But then figure out a way to distribute that knowledge to everybody in the organization. Unless the people are given the opportunity to share their knowledge with other employees, the knowledge will leave the organization along with the departing personnel. So, because people, there's turnover. People retire, people leave for other organizations. There's got to be a way that the reservoir of knowledge is passed on to everybody in that organization. So you have that organizational memory and acting on the knowledge. If new employees are unwilling to learn from departing ones, the organization's accumulated knowledge is lost. That's why you have orientation. That's why you have all this sort of thing. So, and hopefully failure and thinking about that stuff is part of training sessions and orientation sessions in a good organization or company. And then, it just talks a little bit, there's more about, my next slide is also about organizational memory. Need constant flow of information, need access to information, need to make sure everybody in the organization knows what's going on. Novak and Selnow explain, this is on top of page 192, when employees are talking, hearing, and doing training throughout the day and every day, the collective mindfulness of the organization increases. I don't know how you have training every day. Hey, let's talk about our failures all day long. I mean, you have to have that type of good communication between folks in an organization. And then there's a pretty interesting point from Middlestat. He offers this blunt assessment. Not only must we continue to learn, but until we develop plug-compatible brain dumps, each new generation must start learning from scratch, but at a higher level. This higher level involves learning and retaining what we can from previous experience while embracing the learning process. That'd be cool if we developed plug-compatible brain dumps. I'd like to just sort of I now know karate. That's from the Matrix, isn't it? You can actually, so plug that stuff right on in, and I know how to win. But in any case, yeah. So opportunity number 3 is organizational training and planning should emphasize the preservation of previous learning in order to make organizational memory a priority. So within an organization, you got to have organizational memory, and you do that through organizational training and planning. And because this is all about crisis, that's going to be about previous failures, potential failures, or whatever, previous crises. If you're if you're employed by Johnson & Johnson and you don't know all this stuff that has occurred in the past, that's bad. If you are a new employee of NASA and did not realize that there were these disasters, these crises, that's bad. Okay, so the next thing here is unlearning, which is sort of, again, counterintuitive. We want to learn, and then we want to unlearn. But basically, this is saying that we want to unlearn things that are no longer relevant. Unlearn practices and policies that have become outdated. because of environmental changes, not just environment like trees and bugs, but larger contextual things. This is going back to, you don't want to use routine modes of communication in a non-routine situation. And they talk about, again, the floods back in North Dakota and Minnesota and all that type of stuff, and utilizing sort of routine things. And so we do not want to be comfortable, in other words. We always want to think in terms of, just like Dr. Burke's a little mission statement, or whatever it's called, the little sign outside of our office door. Your comfort zone ends here. I don't want you to sit down. I want you to lay down on nails, walk across hot coals or glass. Don't be comfortable. Employees, management, and other stakeholders become comfortable with the way things are done. This comfort, however, can blind organizations to the urgency of an impending crisis. So you're still learning, and you still want to have that organizational memory, but at the same time, you don't want to get comfortable with, this is just always the way we've done it. Have you ever heard, and you should have, if you took my Common 100 class, you probably know this, or just if you're generally a smart person, there's a fallacy called ad antiquatem. And it sounds like antique, right? Because it's the idea that this is the way we've always done things, and therefore we should continue to do them just because this is the way we've always done things. Yeah, that's just dumb. It's a fallacy because it's not based on any sort of evidence. It's just sort of, this is the way we do things. Why? I don't know. It's just the way we do it here. But does it work? No, it doesn't matter. It's just the way we do it. And so basically we get this idea of 3 results from unlearning from Uber. Uber's going to take us for a ride. Uber. Unlearning is much more than simply discarding knowledge. Unlearning occurs when organizations recognize that existing procedures constrain the organization's ability to respond. 3 results may occur from unlearning. Expanding your options. When organizations are unwilling to forego routine procedure, what are all the various options? What can we do? Contracting options. In some cases, the organization may respond to a crisis with a strategy that's worked well in the past. However, the strategy can be tweaked a little, or that strategy can make matters worse. So organization must be willing to reject some strategies in favor of maybe new, novel things. Grafting. Basically, if the socialization of the employees is so intense that they cannot bring new knowledge to the organization is doing itself a disservice. So, of course, you want to have that training there. You want to have opportunity 3 here, but you don't want to socialize them so well that they become little robots. We're only going to do things the way that we've always done them. We got to have new ideas as well as the old ideas. So, opportunity number 4 here, organizations must be willing to unlearn outdated or ineffective procedures if they are to learn better crisis management opportunities. And so the summary here, going to school and throwing paper flying machines. That's neither here nor there. Maybe, I don't know, we'll figure something out. I did in my evening class, we made paper airplanes, and people had forgotten sort of how to make paper airplanes, so they tried to rethink them, and then we had little competitions, and to see how, and we did it a couple of times. So if the little machine or whatever you call it, if it didn't go very far, they figured out what their mistakes were, where they failed, and then made something else. But organizations, again, summary, opportunity 1, organizations should treat failure as an opportunity to recognize a potential crisis or to prevent a similar crisis in the future. So they are opportunities. Don't get too down. 2, organizations can avoid crises by learning from other organizations' failures and crises, vicarious learning. Opportunity 3, organizational training and planning should emphasize the preservation of previous learning in order to make organizational memory a priority.